Now, I will say this about the Arizona Cardinals draft. I really wasn't that big on it after the draft was initially over. I was questioning their first round pick. I thought they reached on their second round pick. They didn't address quarterback at all. It was originally one of those drafts that I was prepared to poon at least somewhat. But a few weeks have gone by. I've been able to sit back and, remove myself from it a little bit and take a more objective look. And I guess I could see a little bit what the Arizona Cardinals were hoping to accomplish in the 2015 NFL draft. Now, it's not my favorite draft class, and there are still things about it I most certainly question. But I understand it and I get it now, whereas a few weeks ago you might have been prepared for me to give it a harsher grade than what I will end up ultimately giving it. Now, in terms of looking at this draft, one thing I guess I should know by for now with Keim and Arians in terms of what they're going to do with their first-round pick. They're going to look for some type of athletic difference maker, some guy that brings really elite athletic tools to whatever position. And in this case, they maybe felt that DJ Humphries brought an elite athletic skill set to the offensive tackle position, and henceforth they felt that that was something that they couldn't pass up on, especially with an aging, immobile, injury-prone, very injury-prone Porcelain Palmer quarterback back there in Carson Palmer. The offensive line was going to be important, and they needed to upgrade there. So I can understand it. Might not have been the guy that I took at 24 if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, but I understand it and I get it. I look at their second-round selection of Markus Golden, the edge rusher from Missouri. With all the focus and attention on Shane Ray, there are plenty of people, I think, that actually thought Golden was the better NFL prospect long-term. I don't see it like that. I see a guy that was maybe a little bit better against the run but lacked the same type of explosiveness of a Shane Ray. I think sometimes was able to benefit from the attention that Shane Ray got. And frankly, based off of how the draft ended up breaking down, I look at a Golden, and I don't think he was the best edge rusher available at that particular point in time. With the Cardinals especially being a team that's been willing to gamble in some cases with some guys that have off-the-field issues like a Tyrann Mathieu, I was really surprised to see them pass on a guy like Randy Gregory, because to me, Randy Gregory was a better prospect than a Markus Golden and potentially a better fit for what they wanted to do defensively. However, with that said, again, I look at Golden. He does address a huge need, which was their edge rushers in the 3-4 defense. You're talking about a prospect that's safer from an off-the-field standpoint than a Randy Gregory. So it makes sense. Based off of the way the board broke down, the draft broke down, I thought there were better players available, but it is what it is. I really like their pick, though, of David Johnson, the running back from Northern Iowa in round number 3. And for my money, that was the best pick they had in this draft. You're looking at a guy about 6'1", 225 pounds, is a little more physical than you think, is quicker and faster than you think, and has a better all-around skill set than what you think. Now, some people might say that he didn't always show off that size in terms of his running style, and sometimes I agree with that. He sometimes looked more like an Anthony Thomas, the A-Train, than he did a Matt Forte. But there were plenty of times that I saw him, and I did see some glimpses of Matt Forte. And with him going to UNI and me still having friends back in the Waterloo, Cedar Falls, Iowa area, people that know David Johnson, I can assure you, you are getting a kid that is humble, that is going to work hard, and wants to be a very successful pro. If you're a Cardinals fan, you should be ecstatic about the thought of David Johnson and Andre Ellington being your 1-2 combination in the backfield. Yes, you missed out on Gurley and Gordon in round number 1. But you should be happy with David Johnson. This is a guy that might not be the pure thumper that you thought the team needed to complement Andre Ellington, but in some ways I'm okay with that because David Johnson has more of the prototype size to be able to hold up as a feature back at the NFL level, but you also don't get into a situation where your offense becomes predictable with him on the field because Johnson is a guy that can not only run between the tackles, but he can run outside. He can also be a valuable weapon out of the backfield as a pass catcher, similar to an Andre Ellington. I really, really like that pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Another pick that I like that I think could surprise a little bit is a guy like Shaq, or excuse me, I could say both of their fifth-round picks, frankly. Shaq Riddick from West Virginia, the edge rusher, and J.J. Nelson, the wide receiver from UAB. Last year the Cardinals went into round 3 and did what a lot of people thought was a reach by 2 or 3 rounds, taking John Brown from tiny Pittsburgh State. But this was a smaller guy with big-time explosiveness and athleticism, and a guy like J.J. Nelson reminds me of John Brown on film in some ways. And you could, again, the Cardinals like these type of guys, and J.J. Nelson's another type of guy like that who could maybe, if nothing else, come in immediately and contribute as a returner in the punt and kicking games. And then Shaq Riddick, a guy from West Virginia, a little bit undersized, even as a 3-4 outside linebacker. He'll need to get stronger. He'll need to beef up some, but he does carry a 6'5", 6'6" frame with decent length arms. Here's a guy that gave me some flashes to show me he could at least, if nothing else, be an adequate starter at the NFL level or a really good rotational edge rusher. But again, you got him in round number 5. You can't be too mad about that. Like I said, with the Cardinals, I get why they took DJ Humphries. I get why they took Markus Golden. I get why they took David Johnson. I get why they took a Shaq Riddick. In some ways, you could see this as being a bit of a need-based draft. And that's not always a good thing, but it's not always a bad thing. Me personally, I still thought there were better players on the board than DJ Humphries at number 24. Maybe they should have went in another direction. But to be fair to them, with Dupree and Ray going off the board in front of them at 22 and 23, maybe they didn't really feel like they had any other options, and they didn't feel like there was a corner worth taking at 24. So that's what they did. There was no running back for them worth taking at number 24. And I understand that. I still question, like I said, the pick of Humphries. I still question the pick of Golden because I thought there were better edge rushers or better players on the board. I could question them not addressing the quarterback position in this draft, but the problem is the draft was really weak when it comes to the quarterback position. It really, truly was. Once you got past Winston and Mariota, there wasn't a whole lot. Now, could I have sat there and maybe made a good, strong argument for them taking a guy like Garrett Grayson in the second round over Markus Golden? Perhaps. But then you are really just kind of drafting for need. And when you look at a guy like Grayson, would he have necessarily been the best fit for what Bruce Arians wants to do on the offensive side of the ball? I don't think so. I think Grayson ended up in a much better situation for himself and his career long-term by going to New Orleans in round number 3. So with that said, I thought it was a solid, passable draft for the Cardinals. I give them a grade of like a C. Not a lot to rant and rave about, but there are some things I would have liked to have seen them done differently, some things I would have liked to have seen them do better. But I do think if there's one thing you could take from this draft, I think Humphries will end up being a starter at right tackle for them as a rookie. I think he'll beat out Bobby Massey. Golden could end up being a starter by default as much as anything else. But I think a lot of you Cardinal fans are really going to be happy with what David Johnson brings to that backfield in 2015 and beyond.